Every great survival game has one thing in common. The first thing you need to do is punch a tree. Hop into Minecraft, punch a tree. Wake up on a beach in Ark, punch a tree. You're born? Punch a tree. It's a key feature of any survival game, except Raft, but you still collect wood right away, so I'm counting it. It teaches you that you can interact with your environment and use the materials it gives you to create newer and better things so you can ravage nature more efficiently next time. So this is the first feature I want to add to my game. In the last video, we got the player movement working as well as randomly generating the world. I decided these blocky colors were not going to do, so I learned how to make a texture shader by following more of Sebastian Lang's tutorials. No, I have never pronounced his name wrong, don't check that. After that was working, there were a few things that I wanted to address for my last video. A lot of you left comments, and luckily I read them all because some of you had some great feedback that I agree with, so I wanted to fix a few things. First, the player character is basically the size of the mountain, so I made the world bigger. Easy fix. I've also decided that an endless world doesn't really fit the one base mechanic, so I made it only generate an island. I also made some tweaks to the main character so that he uses less polys but looks smoother, and then I shrunk the size of his head so it doesn't look so massive. And lastly, I flattened the terrain out a bit to make it more playable. Okay, now that that's all out the way, we can focus on getting wood, and the best way to do that is with trees. Unfortunately, with a random world, you can't just place trees manually. Those also have to be randomized. I did this by watching part of Legend's video where he talks about making his own random world from scratch. Go check him out, after you finish this video. The spawner works by spawning a raycast above the ground. If you don't know what a raycast is, think of it as a laser beam that goes on forever. So once it's spawned in, it shines a laser downwards, and if it hits something, it returns the height of it. With that, we can decide if it's a valid spot for a tree and if we should spawn one there. The spawner is also cool because it allows you to add some variety to your prefabs so that they can be different sizes and use different rotations. I did have to make a few tweaks since the map I'm generating doesn't have a mesh until it's loaded into the game. This makes it so in the editor, the raycast will collide with the water instead of the land. I fixed this by making it call the function a few seconds after the game loads so the land is ready. Now when you jump in, you can see the world is empty, but before you land, everything appears like magic. Now it still looks a bit empty, so I duplicated the spawners so it can spawn multiple different objects. Now when you jump in and start looking around, it looks much better. It's definitely not perfect yet, but I can work with it. So now that we have trees, we have to be able to punch them. To do this, I first had to make it possible to punch, obviously. The code part of this was easy, but I had to learn a few things about animation to make this happen. I found out that there are animation masks where you can assign animations to be on a specific part of the body, so I just selected the upper parts and added it to a new layer. Now whatever animations are used on this layer will only affect the upper half. This makes it so you can run around and punch things. I got the animation from Mixamo. Thanks everyone who recommended this, I would have hated to make this on my own. The animation isn't the best, but consider it a proof of concept. I made it so you can just hold down the button to punch as fast as possible so you don't have to just spam click. Now to add a hitbox. I did this by adding an animation event that activates a box, and then another event that deactivates it. I had never used this before, so I thought it was really cool. So now if I attach a mesh to the tree, I can punch it. But what good is punching a tree if it doesn't give you anything? So I made a quick script where it can drop items with different spawn rates, and boom, now when you punch a tree it can give you things. This will be wood later, I just didn't feel like opening Blender yet. Plus, why get resources if there's nowhere to put it? So now I had to make an inventory. This was a process, but I made it so you could pick things up and they could stack or not based on the item. I'm just using some totally random placeholder images that I had on my computer for now, since I didn't have icons made yet. But now that it's functional, I want to make it look a little bit better, but not too much better. So I threw together a quick inventory and made it so hitting tab opens and closes it. It also activates the mouse so you can move it around without moving the camera. Now you might be wondering where he holds all this stuff, and I think we know. Imagine it's like Bender from Futurama where he can hold things in his body. So for now, the inventory is working alright. I still need to have the ability to move and drop things, but it's good enough for now. But what's the point of the inventory if you can't use the items in it? Every survival game has a toolbar with the items you can actively hold and use. But that seems really hard, so instead of implementing that, I'm pushing it off till the next update. For now, I made some very quick models for the wood and rock that drop from breaking things, and I gotta say, they are models. I put them in the game, and they definitely worked first try. Then I added the correct icons to the inventory. I also made it so you can use different weapons, and each one affects objects differently. I did this by creating a small web on the animation tab that acts like a state machine. So when you pull out the axe, you go into the axe state. When you pull out the pickaxe, you go into the pick state. And when you put them both away, it resets you to the punching state. This allows me to use the same code that I use for punching, but it uses a unique animation for the active weapon. I used Mixamo again for the animations, so I'll have to tweak them later, but for now, they're working. So the axe cuts trees really well, and the pick breaks rocks easy. And for all the Fortnite fans out there, if you hit the tree with a pickaxe, you explode. Yes, this is a feature. And that's all for this update. Make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord. See you next time.